the outreach that's being done on this entire project, it's a fairy tale. The people who have gone to the Globeville design meetings have been told, oh, we're making a bigger, better park for you. The point is, that was not the reason they're doing the project. City Park was not chosen for a redo coming out of any kind of planning for parks. It all came from this need to stop the sheet of water from flowing north. Same thing with the 39th Avenue Channel. People were asked if they want to have barbecue pits along it. Would they like bike lanes? And then, of course, they're told the money for that, we'll have to raise it later. We'll be working with some foundations and we'll try to find the money for the amenities. But that's how it's being sold to the people.
The city claims, their PR agency claims that they came out and flyered, but you can see the wind today. This isn't a new pizza shop. This is a big, significant development in our neighborhood. They also reach out to the RNOs. Well, the registered neighborhood organizations all operate in different ways. In my neighborhood, we don't have a regular newsletter. 20 people come out to the meetings every month. So how are neighbors in Cole or Clayton or some of the other neighborhoods for that matter to know about this project? I think there are a lot of people that still don't know. As I have found out in my research, a ton of decisions and things were already done in the background before this. So on September 7th, 2015, before the public even knew, the EPA ran a one-time ad in the Denver Post, a poorly read publication, and asked for public comments. What did the public know it was commenting on? Who reads the Denver Post today? I read it online. How would I have seen that ad? So I think there are a lot of people who don't know. And it comes across as the people involved anticipated they would come out, show us these pretty pictures, and we would just accept it. I don't think they anticipated they would get as many questions and as much pushback as they have received.
How many people here are from Globeville? Please raise your hand. I count 6, 7 people, something like that, 7 people.
2 just left.
8, 9 people,
yeah.
Others that may show up. This is 2,100 signatures and comments on this project. That's the kind of input that we do need for this type of a project because it has many issues that are of concern to us.
So I live not even a block from here. I live 3-4 houses down.
Oh, really?
And I had no idea that this was even going on. And the only reason we came down here was because my mom wanted to come for a couple of things that the rec center provides, and I came along with her. And I looked in here and I seen a lot of boards, and I just wanted to see, what was going on. It looked very important. And so I walked in here and then realized that it was about basically a ditch that's getting built in my community and is going to turn into a bathtub, and I had no idea about it. And for me not to, get informed about any of this is a little upsetting because it's like, this is my home. It's not just a house where I live. It's my home. It's my community.
Did you get a flyer?
I never received a flyer. I never received nothing. Nothing at all. No one came to my door, knocked on my door, asked me if I wanted to come. There is no information about this.
But I thought there would be 50 people here. Oh, I'll show you in a second.
Well, there's no one here because we were not informed. It was going from bulletin to bulletin and, receiving more explanation about what was going on. I came to realize that there was just a lot of changes happening that I don't know about, and I'm barely starting to learn about it. And my question was, how many more petitions do we need until, the governor or whomever can postpone this. I mean, what's the rush? Why are we rushing it so quickly? I kind of feel like they're trying to hide something. That we need the community to find out, to express how they feel, to express what they're thinking, and also be informed about the health risks. Exactly.
So let me just ask you about, they did have 3 other Globeville meetings about designing the park, like whether you would like a climbing wall. Did you know about those meetings?
No, I had no idea about any of these meetings. The first bulletin that's on that corner, which is where you're supposed to begin, they just show you a beautiful picture of the park and all the green and trees and where you can walk your dog and stuff, which seems very awesome. But then as I started getting down down the bulletins, I started realizing that, wait a minute, what is all of this, what is all of it? I had no idea. And so I kept asking more and more questions about it, and now I'm finding out that I used to come to this rec center when I was younger, and I used to do arts and crafts with a lot of the people that lived in the community, and I realized that they were here, and I was like, oh great, well, let me ask what they think about the topic. Let me see what their input is, and all of them are completely against it because they feel like it should be postponed for a while. And so I asked why, and they said, well, to get to the nitty-gritty, they're trying to turn Globeville into a bathtub to prevent the water from flowing into the Stock Show area, the Coliseum, and all of that stuff. So now I'm starting to find out the negative side about it, not just the beautiful trees and the grass. So I said, because what I seen was that project over there is going to be next to the highway. That project is behind the Coliseum, the parking lot.
landing outlet.
Yeah.
Right.
And so I said, oh, well, the highway's right there. The change that they're trying to make is right there. So I asked, I said, does this have to do with the highway and that expansion that they're doing? And they said no.
They did tonight here?
Yes.
Who did?
I can't remember because I spoke to a lot of people, but they said no. And I was like, okay, so I kept going post to post and just reading everything, trying to figure out what's going on.
In 2015, when the Platte to Park Hill project was unveiled to the public through their community involvement, they told us flat out, repeatedly, that the 2 projects are unrelated. But we have documents back to mid-2014, right?
Yeah. Well, between 2013 and 14, they started doing the planning for the drainage project to protect I-70 and the Stock Show from flooding, because that's the way the water goes. So yes, 2014.
Yeah. It finally came out in a LUTI, Land Use Transportation meeting, where Councilman Rafael Espinosa was like this at them repeatedly over and over and over again, saying, you're telling me that they're not linked. I have this document. Yeah. You're telling me they're not linked.
So
and they finally caved in and said, okay, fine, they are linked, and now they're a lot more out about it.
I had no idea.
Well, they have to get, CDOT is counting on this Globeville project, so when they start construction, they can get the water, when you go down below groundwater level, you have to get the water out and hold it back. So they need to discharge, and this is their preferred route for discharge.
But I don't even agree with the highway change. I just feel like the highway is just another ditch.
So I gave her the town hall
Another
meeting.
bathtub.
It is another bathtub. It's below groundwater level.
Well, that's what I'm realizing. It's very scary.
When the Intergovernmental Agreement went through City Council, there were a lot of puzzled council members saying, now, why are we giving $90 million to CDOT for construction and at the same time linking it to a drainage project? Nobody understood it. For months after the Intergovernmental Agreement was signed, we would go to public meetings and the consultants would say, oh, there's no link. This Platte to Park Hill project is really just about you neighborhoods down towards Mayfair Park and Park Hill. We're going to stop flooding in your neighborhood. We're concerned. And this went on for quite some time. They tried to message that they were 2 distinct projects. However, at the cabinet and the community meeting that the mayor holds every quarter on November 19th of 2016, he told community members that he realized now it was he shouldn't have tried to deny the connection, that it was clear they are connected.
The Platte to Park Hill project is a joint venture between Colorado Department of Transportation and the city and county of Denver to put into place essentially a 2.5-mile dam to protect I-70 and the expansion of I-70 from flooding. Looking west all the way down 39th to Franklin Street, and you can't see, well, there's that big blue building right before there, it'll stop.
So picture this. It's a gray, crisp November afternoon. You're sitting outside with your young daughter, and your husband is outside hanging the Christmas lights. Your grandmother, who lives next door and who's lived on this block for 60 plus years, is outside with you. And all of a sudden, a man and a woman you have never ever seen before come up and ask you if you know that you might be at risk of losing your home. And this is about where my story begins. So I went to the community meeting and learned that there were plans in the city for a stormwater project that could potentially knock out more than 1.5 blocks of my neighborhood. 1.5 blocks of families that have lived here for decades and generations. And so I went out a few days later to see, did the people most at risk know about this? And I learned that they didn't. We went out in January and collected 500 signatures saying, don't knock down our homes. That was the first goal, is let's save homes in Cole. We're standing actually in what will be the channel. When it was pitched to us at that public meeting on November 17, 2015, and at later meetings, the pictures showed just the street being taken out. But what you see here behind me are scrapyards that butt up right against people's homes. This whole area, the street and these lots, are going to make up the channel and the outdoor space right against people's homes. But that aside, this road, as I understand from a longtime neighbor, wasn't paved until the 60s. And don't forget, it was 1999 when we declared this a Superfund area. So this was all sealed off. Now the city wants to dig it up. Not only do we have these heavy metals that are present here and at risk of now being let loose into the air we breathe, but this is a heavy industrial area right across the street. So you've got homes right here, and right across the street is an area where they used to manufacture machinery for the mines and for the railroad, as I understand it, and they use heavy chemicals to do so. There was a gas station a block from here. Gas stations are known to leak benzene and other elements. And so I'm concerned, and I know many of my neighbors are concerned, that once the city starts digging this, we will be exposed to things that we ought not to be exposed to. It's supposed to be 1 mile long between Steele and Franklin, but then it goes underneath to Grulville. The channel between Steele and Franklin is wide open. I've heard as wide as 106 feet. There have been lots of questions about funding and who's going to manage this after the city builds this 10-foot deep channel. Who's going to manage this to make sure it's kept clean? I'm concerned about the depth and width of this. When I had a meeting with a couple of our council people, one of them was quick to tell me about the story on the west side. I picture a scene kind of like the Cherry Creek path down Long Spear. Right, there is an area that's below street level where a woman and her young child on the west side several years ago were swept away in a flash flood. This is not like those paths where you have to intentionally go there. This is next to people's home. What about when a big deluge of water comes in? Reminds me, I'm concerned about the water in the big rains. Today, the water is flowing from 9 miles south and east of here by Fairmount Cemetery. Along the way, it picks up all kinds of things. The oils and chemicals from our cars, industrial stuff. It picks up fecal matter. It picks up all kinds of things that cause harm. What is left when the water subsides, the sediment that's left behind? Then there are the mosquitoes. West Nile and Zika are here in Colorado. You don't need a lot of water when there's a little bit of little pools or puddles that are still left over. I've had concerns about the environmental contamination and impacts all along. And so I started asking questions of the EPA back in December. I've read, I can't tell you how many documents from the EPA, from Colorado Department of Health and the Environment, from a number of other agencies that they produce a lot of information, but they leave more unanswered than they answer. When I asked about the environmental impacts, the contamination, when asked about mosquitoes, the answer has always been very nonchalant. Oh, we'll test, we'll deal with it later. I think this is serious enough that the conversation ought to have included from the get-go, we know there's contamination and this is how we're going to handle it, and you'll be kept apprised and involved in the process all along, and that hasn't happened to date. There are numerous residents I've been working with that have a great deal of questions about the environmental factors here and the risks. I also have learned in my reading that there are different permissible levels of contamination that are allowed for residential versus commercial and industrial, and the EPA and the city haven't said which permissible level they're going to use as their standard. We're talking right across the street from homes. Okay, so I'm concerned about when they start digging and all that's in the soil, the things that we know about, the lead and the arsenic and the cadmium from the days of the smelters, what we don't know about from the gas station, from this machining factory across the street. I'm concerned about the dust blowing. My house is covered in dust. My car is covered in dust like no other neighborhood I've ever lived in Denver. I'm concerned too about breathing that in. Dogs bringing, and children and humans, adults bringing that into the house on their feet. This doesn't just impact Cole, it impacts Clayton, it impacts Globeville, Elyria, Swanson, it affects Park Hill, Whittier, City Park. It affects all of us because of the environmental factors that are here, our history in this part of the city, from smelting, which blew lead and arsenic and other metals all over the area. In fact, causing several neighborhoods, including Cole, to be declared a Superfund site in 1999. It affects us with the potential impact to our park. I recognize a golf course isn't necessarily looked at as a park, but it's an open space that we all enjoy. In a time where we're increasingly feeling the pressures of infill, those open spaces are increasingly precious. We need them. We need the trees. We need the space for our health and well-being.